The other day I was reading about the escape mechanisms of the ego. What do I mean by that? A lot of us have issues from the past, not only from this life, but from events in past lives as well. These things will manifest as symptoms, as issues, as resentment, as anger, as jealousy, in a way that we step away from different situations and we don't want to be vulnerable. In order to evolve spiritually, we need to start a journey of self-discovery. That's a journey of traveling within to understand who we are and what is it that what we're doing here, what are we here for, and deal with these events that are affecting us. There are several mechanisms that our ego uses in order not to deal with that, to step away, to engage. We engage in a self-defense mechanism. We don't want people to approach us because it is painful, and because we do that, we just retract and we start harboring feelings of resentment, anger, jealousy that are not really justified. I guess in order to explain this better, let's talk about a couple of cases. I'm going to change the names of two sessions that I had some time ago. Let's talk first about Annalie. Annalie, from the moment she got to the session and during the interview, she was telling me and how challenging her childhood was. Her parents were very strict with her. They had very high expectations. There was not much love. They would not demonstrate that much love, but they will put a lot of expectation on her. She was not able, basically, what she was telling me is that she was not able to make mistakes. She had to be, the first one of her classroom, or close to be the first one of the classroom. She didn't have any room for making mistakes. They registered her in extra activities. So this kind of childhood, when the parents really put all this pressure on you, and sometimes they want to live their dreams through the kids. That was her case. And I took some notes because I don't want to forget what I wanted to say. Whenever she made a mistake, whenever she was not to the standards that the parents set up for her, she was punished, or she was ridiculed, which was even worse. As I was talking to her and I was asking her questions, I could see that for everything else that happened in her life, she had an answer or she had an explanation. It's not that I was asking for an explanation. She immediately said, whenever this happened to me, or whenever I made this mistake, I made this mistake because this and that, or this person did this to me because this and that. And every time she said something, what came next was an explanation on why that happened. She felt the need to give an explanation, not only to me, this was happening in her life in general. She had the need to give an explanation of what was happening, or why she didn't do such a thing, or she did such a thing, right? That's number one. I'm just going to mention the escape mechanism that her ego is using, or was using, right? In this case is the rationalization. I'll explain those after I finish with the two cases I want to share with you. Rationalization, that's escape mechanism. Case number two, we'll talk about Joy, right? Joy's case was a little bit different. Joy's case also had a challenging childhood. If you think about it, and if you look around, you'll see that most of the issues that we're experiencing as adults started during childhood. That's what happens, right? So in the case of Joey, I could see that as Joey was telling me about her life, she started blaming everybody else for what happened to her. Every time she mentioned about something bad that happened to her, there was somebody else to blame for that. That started with the parents. Oh, it was my mother's fault that I was not able to study this. It was my father's fault that I was not able to do that. It was my siblings or my brother or my sister's fault that I was not able to get the attention that I needed from my parents. That was during childhood, but it continued during her teenage years and even during her adulthood. When things were going wrong at work, it was her supervisor's fault. When things were not going well in her marriage, it was her husband's fault. And when the kids were not performing well at school or not up to her expectations, it was their fault. It was not her fault. So in the case of Joy, what she was using, actually, the escape mechanism of the ego she was using was projection. Now, go ahead and explain the mechanisms of the ego that we use in our lives constantly without even realizing what we're doing. Avoiding, this journey of self-discovering, avoiding dealing with these things that are hurtful, that hurt us, avoiding actually grow and mature, right? Because once we start that journey, once we start to analyze this, we'll understand that those feelings of resentment, fear, sadness that we're experiencing do not make sense, that they are the result of the immaturity of our soul, the entitlement of our ego, right? So what are these mechanisms? And again, I'm going to list them for you here. Number one, compensation. What is compensation? Compensation is like, for example, we have two lungs, right? When one is not working properly, the other one is going to make up for the other one, right? Like to balance. Same thing happens with the ego. Whenever we're lacking for something or about something, we try to exaggerate the opposite. For example, if I feel like I'm weak and which I'm not, right? I'm not thin, but somebody that is weak and very thin, right? They will register at the gym and try to do exercise and build some muscles because they want to compensate what they feel. I feel that I'm weak. I need to show that I have muscle, that I have a body. When people have self-esteem issues, right? They also try to demonstrate the opposite. And if you look at those that speak about what they have, what are they really telling you about it, right? Tell me about what you're presuming you have, and we'll see who you are really inside. So compensation is trying to do the opposite, exaggerate or show whatever you are not, right? We have this displacement, okay? What is displacement? Displacement is when we don't want to face with an issue we need to deal with, and we get upset, and then we go into a tantrum and start breaking things, throwing things. Even people register for or go into these type of sports when they fight, so that they can release that anger. I'm not saying that applies to every case. They release that anger that they feel in a way that is socially acceptable, right? In a ring, they hit, they kick, they punch, and that's the way they release their anger. Where is this anger coming from? They don't deal with it, they deal with it in a different way, but not dealing with the root cause. That is displacement. The next one is projection, and that was Joey's case. Remember, she was blaming everybody for what happened to her in her life. So in her case, projection is when you blame other people, when you transfer the guilt or your responsibility to somebody else. Everybody is responsible for what is happening to you. That is the projection. The next one is introjection. That is different. That's when you try to copy some of the characteristics or personality of your heroes, for example, or I don't know if you watch soap operas, you start acting like them, speaking like them, behaving like them, but it's not you. That is just a mask. You're using that mask, again, in order not to show what you really need to work on, right? That is introjection. Another one, and this is what, in this case, Annalie had, was rationalization. What does that mean? Look for logical or rational explanations for what you're doing or what you're not doing. Even though what you're doing is not wrong, in this case, Annalie, what she was doing was not right, even though there were no excuses for what Anna Lee was doing, even though it was not acceptable, right? She had a rational explanation of why it was acceptable, why she was right, and why she had to do it. That is rationalization. So, having mentioned those escape mechanisms of the ego, now it's your turn. Which one are you using? What are you trying to escape from? And I'm not pointing at you saying you are the only one with the issues. We all have those issues. But we not just need to become aware that we need to work on certain areas. And by using those mechanisms, those escape mechanisms, we're just putting those issues in the back burner. But sooner or later, they will come back and hunt us anyway. I hope you found this information useful. Once again, it's been a pleasure for me to share this information with you. Until next time, bye.